Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at EX3, and EX3 offers us lots of new and powerful tools to be able to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is going to be Dorbickmon. So there's actually three ways that you could build Dorbickmon. Two of them are less competitive than the other, but they're all still just a fun variations and different ways to be able to approach the deck just based on the sheer amount of flexibility that Dorbickmon has as a card in terms of how you can use him and the types of synergies and support you could play him with. So this first variation is going to be about source splitting. So you're trying to utilize Dorbickmon's ability to shove as many powerful cards underneath him as you possibly can, and then use cards like Tidal Wave to be able to split those sources out and gain their powerful on-play abilities. Then another way that you could approach the deck is going to be more Gamma based, just because Gammamon is playing with all of the different subtypings that Dorbickmon already wants to play with. So for the most part, you would just literally utilize a normal Gammamon deck and then just utilize Dorbickmon as the top end to use. But you could also try to focus a little bit more on Dorbickmon in this style of deck, just because Kana Weissmon will allow our Dorbickmon to be gaining all of the abilities of our different Gammamons, and we have actual ways to be able to add to our inheritable stack to try to make Dorbickmon as effective and efficient as we can possibly make him. But as far as the main build and the build that I think is going to be the most competitively viable, I think that's going to be the OTK variant. So the OTK variant is exactly as it sounds. We're just trying to make and line a evolution stack with our Dorbickmon's Digicross ability to be able to punch through all of the opponent's security in one go, and either play a second Dorbickmon and have enough memory to be able to do that, or utilize our inheritable ability to be able to restand our Dorbickmon, so that way he also can swing for the game in that one instance. So with all that said and done, let's dive right into the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gigimon. So Gigimon is a really fantastic card because we are using a lot of Guilmons in terms of our level 3s to be able to try to draw some cards, and this allows us to help draw us some extra cards because we are a very greedy deck and need to see as many cards as we possibly can in order to try to dig out all of our combo pieces and our Dorbickmon. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Guilmon X Antibody. So Guilmon X Antibody is in the deck just because, again, we're playing with a lot of low-level Guilmons, and his When Digivolving ability can help snipe those pesky rookie floodgates in case they're trying to block out our Dorbickmon plays. On top of that, he has some good built-in cycling himself by allowing us to Digivolve on top of another Guilmon for free, which is just pretty good because we need to see as many cards as we possibly can, as efficiently as we possibly can. And on top of that, he also has a really good inheritable ability to use for our Dorbickmon, and our Dorbickmon could actually use him because he's a Dark Dragon, where it's increasing the range of our DP-based deletion abilities. Next up, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Guilmon. So this is the promo Guilmon, and this combos very nicely with our Digitama because our Digitama is going to allow us to draw an extra card. This Guilmon, when it attacks, is going to allow us to draw an extra card. So when we're swinging and chipping at the opponent's security, not only making it easier for our Dorbickmon to be able to OTK the opponent, but allowing us just to see extra cards, and a lot of extra cards really quickly is the main intention of this card. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Agumon. So this is the Gammamon starter deck version of Agumon, and this is in the deck mostly just because his inheritable ability just helps with our Digimon gain some extra DP, so that way our Dorbickmon can be as effective when swinging into the opponent's security as we could possibly make him. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Guilmon. So this is the Gammamon starter deck version of Guilmon. Even though we're not going to be warping into our Gammamon, he's still just a Guilmon for us to use in combination with our Gigimon and in combination with our Guilmon X Antibody. And again, he also has a pretty good inheritable ability that's interacting with us deleting the opponent's Digimon. So again, whether we're deleting the rookies off of our Guilmon X Antibody, or we're just shoving him underneath our Dorbickmon for some extra draw when his ability deletes a Digimon, it doesn't necessarily matter. It's just some good added card draw for the deck. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Greymon. So this is the BT1 version of Greymon, found in Special Booster 1.0, and similar to Agumon, this is in the deck mostly just to try to help our Dorbickmon gain some extra DP, so that way he could be as effective as he possibly can, swinging into the opponent's security, having the highest chance he possibly could at being able to survive all of the checks we need him to make. Next, I'm going to be playing 2 copies of BurningGreymon. So BurningGreymon is another card that we could shove underneath our Dorbickmon, even though he doesn't have any inheritable abilities. The main use of this card is to just use him as a hybrid, so that way we could Digivolve him on top of our Tamer, as long as our Tamer was already sitting on the field, and be able to swing for the game, especially after our Dorbickmon breaks all of the opponent's security. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Greymon. So this is the starter deck version of Greymon, and this is one of the best inheritable abilities just because it naturally just gives our Digimon security attack +1 to be able to allow us to deal as much damage as quickly and efficiently as we possibly can. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Growlmon. So Growlmon is in here again for his inheritable ability for when we Digicross him with our Dorbickmon to be able to gain some extra memory back, making our Dorbickmon actually cheaper than he normally would be, just because his on-play ability will help delete an opponent's Digimon, and this gains us a memory back when an opponent's Digimon gets deleted. Next, on to our ultimates, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Volcdramon. So Volcdramon is just another card like Greymon to shove underneath our Dorbickmon, and he's really good because, like Greymon, he also adds security +1, so that way our Dorbickmon can deal as much damage as he possibly can, and having multiple instances of security attack +1 just helps the deck's overall consistency and how Dorbickmon wants to play, so that way we can have as many different ones to make him as strong as we possibly can when he's going to be swinging into the opponent's security. Next, I'm going to be playing 2 copies of MasterTyrannomon. So, third verse is same as the first. It's just another card for its inheritable ability of giving our Digimon security attack +, so that way, again, we could use it to be able to deal as much damage as we possibly can, and we do need all of these different instances based on how Dorbickmon's ability works. Next up, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Majiramon. So Majiramon is one of the more important inheritable sources, just because even though we have no way of actually digivolving up into him, we don't care because we're going to be using him from our hand to digicross and shove him underneath our Dorbickmon, and the inheritable ability we're trying to gain off of this card is the ability for our Dorbickmon to be able to restand, so that way he can multi-attack it, so when he's attacking the opponent's security, he'll be able to break a lot of it, restand, and then swing for the game, thanks to Majiramon. So we do have to note that the condition on Majiramon states that the opponent has to have no Digimon with Digivolution sources in play to unsuspend it, so if they literally have no Digimon, then we still get to unsuspend, and that's kind of the key and core strength of the card, is just allowing us to have an easy access at unsuspending for that extra attack. And then the last ultimate of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Jazarichmon. So Jazarichmon, again, is another card to just try to add extra instances of security attack plus to our Dorbickmon to have as much consistency on this ability as we possibly can, and have different cards with the same style of ability. So again, it all just works with our Dorbickmon. And then the last Digimon of the deck is going to be the main man of the deck, which is going to be 4 copies of Dorbickmon. So Dorbickmon is what the deck is centered and focused around, just because of how good this card can be and the flexibility that we have on his ability, more specifically his Digicross ability. So he natively has the rush ability, so when we hard play him, we could swing right away. Again, this feeds into the Digicross ability to reduce his play cost to make him more manageable to hard play and to be able to use them the turn that we do. Then on top of that, he has his own on-play ability, which is pretty decent at being able to remove a Digimon off the opponent's field, where we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with 3000 DP or less, and then for each card with Dragon Soar or Ceratopsian in their traits, then we get to add 2000 to the maximum DP in which we're deleting. So if we add all 5 underneath, then we get to add an extra 10,000 to his already 3000 reach, on top of any other additional reaches is, so he can clean up virtually almost any level 6 in the game just off of his on-play ability. Then what's tying the whole card together is the fact that he has a Digicross 2, utilizing 5 Digimon with different names that have Dragon, Saurs, or Ceratopsians in their traits, which is virtually everything in the deck. So we're just trying to line up his stack, utilizing his Digicross ability with the inheritables that we want and need him to have to be able to close out the game very efficiently with. Next, on to the Tamers, I'm going to be running only 3 copies of Tai Kamiya. So this is the BT1 version of Tai, and this is really important because he is going to be acting as our memory setter. So that way our memory is always going to be set to 3, which is important because Dorbickmon with his full Digicross will hard play for 3. So this way we can hard play our Dorbickmon and not pass the turn thanks to Tai Kamiya's ability. Then on top of that, he combos very nicely with Dorbickmon's ability because we're going to be adding 5 cards to his stack, and Tai's secondary ability gives us an extra security attack when there's 4 or more Digivolutions in a red Digimon stack, so it's just another way to be able to give our Dorbickmon an extra instance of security attack +1 per Tai Kamiya we have on the field. And then lastly, onto the options, I'm going to be running 2 copies of A Delicate Plan. So we are an OTK based deck, and we are afraid sometimes of options being a huge worry to be able to delete our Digimon mid-swing. So A Delicate Plan basically shores up that big weakness, where one of our Digimon gains the ability to not activate the security effect of the opponent's options when they're being checked in the security for the turn. So it's just ensuring that we're going to be able to try to deal as much damage as we possibly can and reduce the amount of threats that actually would be in the opponent's security. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Heir of Dragons. So Heir of Dragons could be heroes in the sky. It doesn't necessarily matter which of the 2 that you use. It's just this is a card we're using specifically to be able to draw extra cards. So its main ability without any additional effects is just to draw 2 cards. And on top of that, if we have a Digimon that has a Greymon or Dramon in its name, then we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with 4000 DP or less. So it's just helping us cycle through our deck and be able to possibly delete the opponent's Digimon all in one card, and its security ability activates its main, which is super important for when the opponent is trying to aggress into us to be able to still have the accessibility to draw extra cards. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Fireball. So Fireball, again, is a card that's allowing us to try to draw some extra cards, but if the opponent does have a Digimon with 3000 DP or less on the field, then we do have to delete it, but if they don't, then drawing the extra cards is the main intended purpose on how we want to use this card, so that way we could try to cycle through our deck and draw as many cards as we possibly can to be able to set up our hand to be in a position where our Dorbickmon is going to be as effective as he possibly can. And then the last option and last card of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Red Memory Boost. So Red Memory Boost is just for added consistency, and the fact that it is a memory boost means that we could use that to extra memory to make more powerful follow-up plays with. So just looking at the top 4 and adding any red card into our hand is pretty good because the majority of our deck is red, which again helps with the overall consistency, and then this card will go into the battle area to set up its secondary main ability of Delay to gain 2 memory at a later turn when we need it, most likely our kill turn, because that 2 memory we could use it to either Digivolve into our hybrid and swing for the game that way, or we could use it in combination with another Dorbickmon to be able to hard play a Dorbickmon essentially for 2, as long as we have a card like Growlmon in its inheritable abilities to be able to gain that extra memory back if they have a Digimon that we could delete on their field. So Red Memory Boost just has so much flexibility and adds so much to the deck as a result. So as far as the general game plan and gameplay of the deck goes, it's all just focused around trying to be able to play Dorbickmon and dealing as much damage with him as we possibly can the turn he comes out. This is why our Tamer is super important to be able to hard set us to 3, because when we use the full Digicross of Dorbickmon, then he's going to actually be a level 6 that we're hard playing for 3 with Rush and a really decent on-play ability to try to remove threats off of the field. So the Tamer just hard setting us to 3 and adding a security attack plus for him having a large stack is just super ideal in order to make our Dorbickmon even more powerful than he normally would be. But as far as what the rest of the deck is doing, it's just fully dedicated towards those Dorbickmon power plays. So we have some pretty decent consistency on a lot of our cards, making it not necessarily a matter of if we can Dorbickmon, but a matter of when we can Dorbickmon. So between all of our rookies helping us draw cards, we have the combination of Promo Guilmon and Gigimon to be able to draw us 2 cards when we swing with him. Then, on top of that, we have the starter deck Guilmon to help us draw cards when we're utilizing X Antibody, and even if we don't necessarily go that direction with those cards, they're still pretty decent cards to shove underneath our Dorbickmon because they are part dragon, or they do have dragon in their traits. Then we do have some pretty decent draw power on our option slots, so we have Red Memory Boost as a good digging tool to try to make sure we could find more specific parts and pieces, as long as they're part red, which the majority of the deck is part red, and what we're trying to find more often than not is either our Dorbickmon or Inheritables. Then on top of that, we do have Heir of Dragons and Fireball as some really good cards that can also help try to delete the opponent's Digimon and draw us cards. I guess Fireball is an either or. You're either deleting the Digimon or drawing the cards, but if you use it early enough in the game or late enough in the game or they don't have a rookie, then it's always going to draw us those 2 cards, and Heir of Dragon just does both as long as we control a Greymon, which isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world if we do want to try to do a little bit of evolution just for some extra cycling. So we could do a little bit of an evolution stack where we could try to utilize MasterTyrannomon as the level 5 we want to try to aggress with, because he himself is natively going to have security attack plus. So we could use either of our Greymon sit on the field, then Heir of Dragons to draw us cards, and then go into a MasterTyrannomon and aggress the following turn with. So there is some pretty decent flexibility on how you could be able to utilize your cards, parts, pieces, and tools, but if you don't even want to bother with that, then Heir of Dragons could be a hero in the sky just to be able to draw 2 cards, but again, I do like the inheritable ability of activating its main as a nice security threat when Heir of Dragons is in security versus a hero in the sky, which just adds itself to the hand, so you're going to have to manually draw 2 cards later versus drawing 2 cards out of security. So there are pros and cons in terms of the different types of approaches that you could take with the deck, and similarly to that, we do have lots of different approaches that we could take with our stack when we're trying to utilize our Dorbickmon. So you could just go for like a full security attack plus, depending on where the opponent's security is, where we have Greymon to give us security attack +1, MasterTyrannomon to give us security attack +1, Volcdramon to give us security attack +1, Jazarichmon to do it, and then Majiramon as that restand. So in combination with Dorbickmon, it allows us to basically break all 5 of the opponent's security in one go, especially with our Tai Kamiya, and possibly restand to then swing for the game. So that's just a very powerful stack that you could take, but depending on the level of chip and where the opponent's security is, thanks to our rookies actually helping us draw cards and chipping at the opponent's security, we do have the flexibility to utilize some of their other inheritables, like Growlmon to make himself cheaper. We do have Greymon from BT1 to increase his DP to try to make sure that he could break through the rest of the opponent's security in that one go. Then on top of that, like I said, we do have Guilmon, X Antibody, and Guilmon to also try to help draw some cards. Then as far as the deck's alternate win condition goes, we are running BurningGreymon. No, it is not considered an actual Greymon for Heir of Dragons, so you have to keep that in mind when utilizing the card, but most of the time we're just going to be utilizing him as a filler inheritable and a hybrid to digivolve on top of our Tamer when we break all of the opponent's security and swing for the game with. And that's why Red Memory Boost is pretty good, is because it'll help us gain that extra memory to be able to use Dorbickmon with our Tamer to break all of the opponent's security and then digivolve into hybrid and then swing for game after cracking the memory boost. Then a delicate plan is just that rounding card to try to make sure that we could make our damage as consistent as we possibly can and to turn off the opponent's security options as threats. So our Dorbickmon has a higher chance of being able to successfully break all of the opponent's security and take the game from there. And then there's still more flexibility in customization that you could think about incorporating into the deck, all depending on what you actually are trying to play and what you're trying to gain out of the deck. And as I mentioned before, we do have a couple of different variations on the deck that you could play in order to be able to spin the deck off of based on your personal playstyle on how you want to utilize Dorbickmon. So as far as just some other really good generic cards for the deck to use, we could think about utilizing Tsunorizumon, similar to Guilmon, to be able to try to help us draw extra cards and be really aggressive with our low-level Digimon. Then we do have Quadramon to use just because, again, he's helping with drawing us some extra cards, especially out of security. Then we do have the promo Tyrannomon that we could think about playing with, just because it could be a pretty decent card at helping DP boost our Digimon when we use him as a Digicross material, just because the plus 2000 only specifies that it needs to be on a level 6 or higher, which our Dorbickmon obviously is level 6. Then we do have some other really good inheritable abilities that we could utilize in the deck. So we do have Growlmon X Antibody, where like the X Antibody Guilmon, add it to the maximum reach in which the Digimon can use his DP-based deletion ability to, well, try to delete more possible targets. Then on top of that, we have Flarizimon from EX3 to help us try to draw some extra cards. Then we do have Orochi as another really good inheritable ability to try to help gain us some memory back. This is really good with our first initial stack, just because when we attack it with our main Dorbickmon or our first Dorbickmon, then we get to discard a card to gain some extra memory, which then we could pop the memory boost and then replay another Dorbickmon. So it's just a good card at trying to create some follow-up plays. Then on top of that, we do have the brand new Volcdramon to kind of be another copy of Flarizimon for our inheritable sources with our Dorbickmon to try to continue digging for our win conditions when we are going to be attacking with our initial stack. Then we do have Lavogradimon as another Digimon to act like another copy of Growlmon to be able to gain us memory back when we're deleting the opponent's Digimon to, again, make playing our Dorbickmon as efficient as we possibly can. Then on top of that, we do have the classic Blitzomnimon, just because this helps us act as another win condition for when we swing with our Dorbickmon, break all of the opponent's security, and then have Blitz Omni to be able to swing for the game, because he'll be able to unsuspend himself. And then, depending on the variation of the deck that you're going to be playing, we do have Omnimon Merciful Mode as a fantastic card to act as some good, solid security removal for the opponent's Digimon, and some disruption for trash-based strategies. Then we do have a couple of other good cards to add to the overall utility of the deck, so you could think about utilizing Gravity Crush, again, to be able to gain some extra memory out of nowhere, to be able to try to use that memory to close out games with. Then we do have some extra ability to be able to draw cards in the deck, so we do have a Hero in the Skies to use literally just as a good draw 2. The only downside to the card is the fact that the security ability doesn't activate its mains, so you don't get the card draw right away, but it's still just a really cheap and efficient card at being able to cycle through our deck. And then as far as continuing with a cheap card draw that allows us to do other things, we do have Rowdy Rocker as a really interesting card to try to use our level 4 or lowers to add to our Digimon's inheritable sources, while being able to allow us to draw 2 cards for doing so. Then, if you need an alternative memory tamer to Tai, then you could think about utilizing Hero, just because Hero is still going to be a memory fixing tamer, always setting us to 3, and interacting with our level 5 or higher Digimon, again, our Dorbickmon being level 6, means that Hero will still be able to give him plus 2000 DP to still make him as effective at swinging into the opponent's security as we possibly can. And then if you just want another generic search tool to try to dig out anything, we do have access to Analog Youth, and the fact that we could use him to be able to reload our raising area in case anything goes wrong with our Dorbickmon is just an additional bonus to the card. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.